The problem isn't that you can't fly, it's that the sky doesn't want you to. It's actively pressing down on you with 5.1 googolplex, 999 googoles, 888 googoles, 777 octogoogoles dollars and chump cent metric tons of air pressure, costing you 334 octodeciljoen, which 167 septendeciljoen, 896 deciljoen, 120 quintillions of calories. And 789 tredicilioni, 654 duodecilioni, 321 undecilioni, 876 decilioni, 239 nonilioni, and 100 pirate doubloons and 3 hook pennies of dollars in wasted potential every second. But don't worry, this isn't your fault. It's the sky's fault. And also partially your fault. And mostly my fault. Let's unpack why the atmosphere and maybe life itself is touching you, uninvited. And let's talk about that pressure. 5.1 999 487 octononagintilliones, 623 septenonagintilliones, 879 sexnonagintilliones, 352 quinquanonagintilliones, 764 quattuononagintilliones, 892 trenonagintilliones dollares, 12 ferro gold and 40 sphinx cents of metric tons. Permit me to repeat that, to repeat the repetition of repeating it, repeating so endlessly that the very essence of repetition repeats itself into a repetition of repetitions repeated for all eternity. 5.1 Novemdecillion, 234 octodecillionen, 567 septemdecillionen, 890 sexdecillionen, 123 quindecillionen, 456 quattuordecillionen, 100 plutonium plates and 5 neutron nibs metric tons, pressing down on you every second of your existence. Imagine that. Permit me to paint the picture. A picture of a picture being painted, where the act of painting paints not just the picture itself, but the very permission to paint, extending infinitely as every brushstroke grants permission for yet another brushstroke, endlessly painting permission upon permission, picture within picture, an endless recursion of painted permissions, painting painted pictures. Every breath you take, every step you attempt, every dream of flight crushed beneath the invisible weight of atmospheric oppression. It's not just air, it's the collective judgment of the universe saying, stay grounded. And what about the calories? 657 duononagintillones, 938 unonagintillones, 473 nonagintillones, 587 novemoctogintillones of them burn to fight gravity, to defy the sky's relentless attempt to pin you down. Every failed leap, every faltering step costing you potential energy you'll never get back. Non-illions of dollars in metaphorical debt to the cosmos. A tab that keeps growing as the sky continues to press its claims against you. Let's not even get started on the audacity of the sky's reach. Do you know how far it extends? Jujing Baqian Chi Bai Liu, Shi Wu Jiao Si Bai San Shi, Yi San Bai Shi Yimo Ju Bai Ba Shi Chi Qian Jiao, Liu Bai Wu Shi Si Bai Jiao, Si Bai San Shi Mo, San Bai Chi Shi Wu Yi, Bai Ba Shi Liu Qian Jiao, Chi Bai Ju Shi Bai Jiao, Wu Bai Si Shi Liu Mo, Ba Bai San Shi Chi Yi, Ju Bai Sha Si Qian Jiao, San Bai Chi Shi Wu Bai Jiao, Liu Bai Si Shi Yi, Ju Bai Ba Shi San Qian Jiao, Si Bai Chi Shi Wu Bai Jiao, Ba Bai Liu Shi San Mo, Wu Bai Si Shi Yi, Chi Bai San Shi Ju Qian Jiao, Si Bai Wu Shi Ju Bai Jiao, kilometers. That's 999 undecillion, 999 duo undecillion, 999 triundecillion, 999 quatuor undecillion, 999 quinque undecillion feet of air invading your personal space. Allow me to permit the audacity, to permit the permission of permitting even the unpermittable ask, who gave the sky permission to be this close? Did you sign a contract? Did anyone? And yet, here it is, omnipresent, unyielding, touching you without consent. And it's not just touching, it's everywhere. It's in your lungs, your hair, your dreams. It's weighing down on your ambitions, quite literally. How can you fly when the atmosphere itself is this clingy? How can you ascend when the very medium of flight is also your greatest adversary? But don't despair. Don't let the atmosphere win. Because let's be honest, the sky doesn't deserve this level of control over your life. It's time to fight back. It's time to reclaim your altitude. It's time to remind the atmosphere that if it's going to press down on you with Egi novem decilio, ketsajarmink negi octo decilio, odsajat vanhet septen decilio, niol kisas kilenchven sex decilio, sajuzon harum kvin decilio, negis zazot ven hatkavatu or decilio, hetsaz niol kvankilens tre decilio, hatzazot venegidua decilio, harum zajuzonegi undecilio of metric tons. You'll push back with quatuor vigintillion of sheer determination. Permit me to permit the thought that the sky isn't just pressing, it's scheming. 5.ik inbim deciline, duishut kautrish acte deciline, pank shut sats decepta decilin, atshut nubisex deciline, ekshutish quindeciline, karshut chapan koyat tor decilin, satshut nibi atrish thredecilin, chishut costiti. The duodecillion metric tons doesn't just sit there passively. Oh no, it conspires, plotting your perpetual grounding with all the subtlety of a nosy neighbour who judges you for your Amazon packages. Permit me to expand upon the expansion of expanding, endlessly expanding the very act of expansion, until the expansion itself expands into an infinite expanse of expanded expansions. Every gust of wind, every breeze, every so-called refreshing gust is simply the atmosphere reminding you who's in charge. And the audacity doesn't stop there. Consider the clouds. Fluffy, harmless-looking spies of the sky, each one floating smugly above you, watching, mocking, laughing softly as you futilely attempt to rise. Those clouds, they're carrying hundreds of tons of water, just loitering in the air, flaunting their ability to defy gravity, while you remain tethered to earth like an overworked paperweight. Permit me to permit this revelation to settle and resettle, settling so profoundly that the act of settling itself requires permission, creating a revelation so permitted it settles into the fabric of all things settled. The sky itself is flaunting its superiority in your face. And what about the birds? Permit me to ask about asking, to ask the question of asking itself, endlessly asking until the act of asking becomes an infinite loop of unanswerable yet beautifully asked questions. Who granted them access? Why do they get to flit and soar, laughing in the face of gravity, while you, dear dreamer, burn through novem decillion? Tivahundra tretiofera, octodecillion, femhundra sextios ju septen decillion, atahundra nitio sex decillion of calories just trying to climb a flight of stairs. Permit me to reframe this. The birds are the sky's accomplices, agents of atmospheric oppression sent to remind you of your limitations. Each chirp is not a song, it's a taunt. But don't let this discourage you. Vertical bar. No, permit me to encourage you to be encouraged, to remind you that this encouragement is an encouragement of reminders, a reminder to be encouraged by the very act of encouraging itself, endlessly cycling in a loop of encouragement that refuses to fade, that even though the sky has quintillions of metric tons on its side, it will never have your resolve. It will never understand the sheer audacity of the human spirit, the refusal to stay grounded, the absolute chaos that comes with thinking, I believe I can fly. Because you can. Or at least you can believe it. And that, dear viewer, dear dreamer, dear gravity's prisoner, dear sky's unwilling tenant, dear atmospheric hostage, dear aspiring pilot of ambition, dear overthinker of quintillions, dear uninvited guest beneath 328,000 feet of oppression, dear birdwatcher with clipped wings, dear air-breather taxed by invisible weights, dear wanderer of the grounded, dear skybound soul tethered by despair, dear underdog fighting the suffocating pressure of 5.1 quintillion metric tons, dear philosopher of failed flights, dear calculator of burned calories and wasted dreams, dear hopeful jumper caught in gravity's grip, dear rebel shaking your fist at the heavens, dear optimist who dared to look up, dear visionary crushed by atmospheric peer pressure, dear human stuck beneath a stratosphere of irony, dear doubter asking why clouds get a free pass, dear aviator of hypotheticals, dear existential balloon tied to Earth's wrist, dear grounded Icarus, dear architect of unbuilt wings, dear believer who forgot to ask the sky for permission, is half the battle.